Until we start, maybe folks can just introduce themselves by sharing where they're joining from in the chat. That'll be nice to know where you're currently joining us from.
Can we just quickly,
Sorry?
if we could quickly check if folks from IIC have joined in?
Yeah, doing that, yeah.
I think we're good to go, Shashwat. We can start.
All right, great. A very good evening, one and all, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to see this kind of turnout, and we've already received a large number of applications this cycle, and it's really encouraging to see a deep interest in IIC. For those who've already applied, thank you. For those still considering, we hope today's call gives you clarity and direction. Let me begin by grounding us in what IIC really is. Next slide, please. The International Innovation Corps, or IIC, is a social impact fellowship program housed under the University of Chicago Trust in India. The University of Chicago has offices in 6 countries globally, housed under uh, globally functioning as extensions of the university's academic and research endeavors. The University of Chicago India House hosts 3 flagship programs: the Development Innovation Lab, or DIL, led by Professor Michael Kremer; the Energy Policy Institute of Chicago, or EPIC, under Professor Michael Greenstone; and the International Innovation Corps, or IIC, under Dr. Anup Malani. IIST was established in 2013, and since then we've been deploying young professionals directly inside government systems and high impact institutions, not as observers, but as execution partners. IIC is not a research fellowship. IIC is not a policy shadowing role. This is an opportunity for hands on systems execution. Next slide.
Great. Thanks, Shashwat. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining in. I hope you can hear me clearly. Shashwat, can you confirm what?
Yes, we
Okay,
are.
perfect. So a little bit about myself. I'm Rishika. I lead strategy for IIC. I found the best way to describe my work experience is by calling it the holy trail of Samaj Sarkar Bazaar, or society, government, and markets. I started my career at a hedge fund, did that for about 2 years, and then pivoted to the impact space, where I helped women entrepreneurs build businesses at the grassroots level. I came to IIC to understand impact at scale, and what better way to do that, you know, housed within the government. I started my journey as an IIC fellow, and I've been here for almost about 4 years. And that means that I've almost had 8 cohorts of IIC fellows come, leave. Some of them also stayed back to understand what IIC does best. And in the past 4 years, I've come to realize that IIC is building the most sophisticated human engine for execution. And when you ask execution for what, we're trying to execute to solve for the most complex development challenges. And if you ask us, how do we do that through our own RISE model. So, RISE stands for Recruiting Future Leaders, Immersive Learning and Mentoring Program, Strategic Deployment, and Empowering the Ecosystem. When you ask us what we do differently when we recruit future leaders, we're not just testing for soft skills, we're not just testing for technical skills, we're testing for how do you navigate ambiguity. We're also testing you for how do you navigate power dynamics when you have influence but not power. And we realize that no one person comes with all those skills already, right? So we do provide 60 plus hours of training in person and virtual. We provide a lot of mentorship on the job because we understand that upskilling on the job is extremely crucial to being a successful IIC fellow. What we mean by strategic deployment is basically providing you with the best fellows, with the best resources at hand, by giving you access to leadership that you would normally not have. So you'd be directly reporting to senior decision makers. It'll be additional secretaries, joint secretaries, directors, CEOs of philanthropies. When we say empowering the ecosystem, we want you to understand that this is not a fellowship that ends in 12 months. We're giving you access to an alumni network that is very, very vast. We want you to build playbooks, toolkits, which would help you in your career, basically trying to build systems for the ecosystem, something that we're doing for the institutions that we work with. And if you had to simplistically ask what kind of problem statements do we work on, right? Next slide. So think of us as Shashwat mentioned, execution focused teams within governments, within social enterprises, within philanthropies, within research organizations. If there's a situation where a leader comes to us saying that, hey, I have an abstract idea, but I don't know how to solve for it, IIC becomes the hands, the heads, and the legs of such a leader. And the kind of institutional challenges that we tackle are a few. We have institutional capacity building, where we're trying to build strong organizations from within. We have tech-enabled innovation, where institutions need to modernize delivery but might lack the ability to design, test, and scale context-appropriate solutions. We also work specifically on flagship program implementation. A lot of these would come in more detail when we have the engagement managers talk next. But with flagship program implementation, we're trying to see how we translate large government schemes that need real time design, feedback, coordination, and trusted execution support. We also provide a lot of support to grassroots organizations for community solutions. We work extensively with nonprofits to cull out insights for them and lead coordination at the grassroots level. We do a lot of policy and strategy advisory work, and what that means is when policy teams lack the operational bandwidth to translate vision, we come into the picture. And we do a lot of strategic needs-based innovation. And what does that mean? It means that whenever IIC sees any kind of gray spaces, we try to build solutions that are the need of the hour. We have around 5 verticals at this point within IIC. We have education, tech and AI, health, WASH, and social innovation. Social innovation is an experiment that is currently happening within IIC. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But do we have Shraddha on the call for us to
Yeah,
know a little bit more on the education vertical? So
yeah.
I invite Shraddha Srivastav, who is the engagement manager for the education vertical, to come and talk about the projects that we're doing, the work that IIC has been doing within.
Hey, hi. Uh, Thanks, Rishika. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you for getting us started, Shashwat and Rishika. Hello, everyone. I am Shraddha, and I am an engagement manager at IIC. I started my journey with IIC as a fellow, and that was my first exposure to working with or alongside governments on large scale public system challenges. And today, I lead engagements in the education sector for IIC. In education at this moment, we have two very exciting projects, and both of them are at the perfect intersection of policy and technology and our impact, of course. Through our engagements, we are engaged both at the higher education level as well as at the school education level. In our first project with the Department of Higher Education and the Ministry of Education, we are trying to see how we can help the government roll out the or actualize the One Nation, One Student ID initiative. So the idea is very simple that all students, all learners should have a lifelong digital academic identity where all their learning history gets accumulated. And then on the other hand, for universities and employers to have access to verified credentials, which would eliminate fraud and a lot of manual paperwork. So this is the first project that we are working on, but also as we are thinking beyond this as an isolated digital public good or a single ID. We are thinking about how would this single ID or a digital public good grow up and grow beyond into the digital public infrastructure for education. In essence, you could also say we are thinking about what the UPI moment for education would be and what would it actually entail to reach that or achieve that. So that's the first project. On the second project, we pivot to the schools. We are working on the midday meal program, or as the latest scheme is called, the PM Poshan scheme, one of the world's largest school meal program that we have. And here we are working with the government of Andhra Pradesh, with the Department of School Education, and we are trying to see how the large amount of operational data that's being generated through the scheme, given that millions of meals are being served every day, how do we bring in technology? How do we bring in AI to bring in more operational efficiency and improved outcomes for the program? We are trying to answer questions such as what does it take to scale innovation for the public system? What does it take to build capacities? What kind of capacities need to be built within the government to actually evaluate solutions that involve AI and latest innovations? So these are the two projects that I am leading under the education vertical, and I am very excited looking for new members to join the team and join me on this mission of answering some really interesting questions around scale, tech, policy, impact, and looking forward to all your applications. Thank you, Rishika. Over to you.
Thanks, Shraddha. Can we go to the next slide, please? Do we have Tanvi on call?
I don't think so. She's joined yet.
Okay. We can go to digital health. I'd invite Himanshu Burad and Riya Singh to take over. Himanshu? Riya, are you on the call as well?
Yeah, Ria's on the call.
Yeah. Over to you, Riya.
Hi, sorry. I think
Hi.
my internet is creating some issues. Can you hear me, Shashwat?
Yeah,
Yes, we can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Himanshu. I think like earlier Rishika and Shraddha as well, I started my journey with IIC as a fellow in 2020. It has been 6 years with IIC now. And I also started my journey as a fellow. Currently, I'm working as an EM in the digital health project. In the past, I have had multiple other projects, largely in the health domain, but they were in different areas. And currently, again, I'm also EM with Ria in the digital health space, and her work largely currently revolves around the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission in the National Health Authority. And in addition, we have also now ventured into the Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, which is the government's health assurance scheme for bottom 40% covering 500 million people. So we are also supporting the National Health Authority in the policy guideline space for PMJ. And again, it is a huge exposure for the fellows who are working on a scale on a scheme which is touted as the world's largest health assurance scheme. So this, from an again fellow perspective, this is a great exposure that people are having. And with digital health mission, I think the experience is same. And Ria will also add on to how we are also furthering those things in the state government as well. We had a couple of projects in Chandigarh, in UP, and in Karnataka as well. And currently, one of the project which is active is in Karnataka. And in addition, particularly for the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, we are playing multiple roles. And I was also going through the chat. So roles vary from product to policy to adoption to capacity building. So it is a quite a varied profiles of work that we are handling at National Authority from IIC. So I mean, anyone and everyone in that regard is is suitable as a fellow at National Authority. And on the state projects and another arm of National Authority where we are particularly looking after the product bit, I would request Ria to add on to those work streams particularly. Thank you.
Thanks, Himanshu. Hi, everybody. I'm Jia. I too joined, I think, much like Himanshu and Shraddha, and I think Rishik also mentioned earlier, joined as a fellow a couple of years ago and now currently have assumed this role over the last year. Just double clicking on some of the things Himanshu mentioned, and I wanted to focus more so on the work that we do at the center. We do support Karnataka, Chandigarh, UP as well, but I think predominantly a lot of the meat of the work that we've done has been focused in terms of helping augmenting the capacity at the central level. So speaking of the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission piece specifically, the IIC team kind of supports the government pretty much in the entire life cycle. So you could think of it as right in terms of problem identification to building some of the core products, which is where the product track kind of comes in, right? So you kind of work with different partners to build different core building blocks, test it out, do those pilots, figure out the policy and the guidelines for it, and then drive adoption, scale, and partnerships for it going on, right? So pretty much the entire life cycle is where IIC can come in at various touch points. I think what's been really phenomenal is for IIC has been to really lead the policy and the building product aspect of it from the forefront. So I think if anyone's kind of interested in the digital health piece of it, I think this is a great opportunity to get the front seat on how schemes of such scale are thought through, built, designed, rolled out, and then measured, evaluated as well, right? So I think that's broadly the piece of work that we're doing, and this is very much in alignment with the DPIs and the DPG has been a flavor of the season, right? So I think again, piggybacking on some of that and building that right stack in the health context as well is the work that we've been doing with the National Health Authority, and this actually is some of our one of our long-standing partnerships at IIC that we've had with the government body. I'll pause here and hand it back to you, Rishika. Thanks so much, Ria Himanshu. I'll tag Umesh to take us through the WASH vertical. Umesh, are you around? Shashwat, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I
Hello.
think it's Umesh. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Umesh, and I'm currently working as an engagement manager, governance and WASH with IIC. When it comes to the WASH domain, currently the government of India is working with the Jal Jeevan Mission, a large number of infrastructure has been uh, raised in the country, and now there is this notion that providing Har Ghar Jal directly to the tap of the households. The IIC team is working with the panchayats and the rural development department in Odisha to ensure that the water that is provided to each household is clean and is treated for the microbial contamination. Right. So we are working with the state government to figure out ways to do systematic chlorination of the Jal Jeevan Mission schemes in 15,000 villages across Orissa. We are working with research organization, implementation organization, and with the government ecosystem to make sure that the contracting, vendor onboarding, and also the operational and maintenance part of the rural piped water supply schemes are implemented in a sustainable manner so that communities take ownership and accountability of the water supply in their respective hamlets and villages. The project largely is working with four districts currently. We are working with in a pilot mode, but the aim is to implement this in Odisha and create a blueprint that we can implement across the country. And give like a template for all the countries to follow related to wash domain. IIC has worked with the wash domain previously also in states like Maharashtra, where we have worked with desiltings of the ponds and ensuring the water sources are strengthened. But yeah, the current project is based in Orissa. IIC provides a wonderful opportunity to youngsters to work on those particular domain statements with states and with central ministries. So really, really looking forward to various applications that will come through. And please feel free to ask any questions related to this domain. We'll be here to answer all your questions during this call. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Umesh. We can actually go next to the social innovation vertical. Great. As a part of my role as strategy manager within IIC, I'm also responsible for figuring out new avenues where IIC can come and add value. And within that, we've discovered the space of social enterprises. These are enterprises that work at the conjunction of profit and purpose. We've seen that in the ecosystem, they do exist in fragmentation from the development sector, given that they're getting money from impact investors that speak the for-profit jargon, but also are building models for the last mile. And we thought for 10 years, the kind of experiences that we had built within IIC would be very fruitful for social enterprises. And we recognize that, especially at the inflection point of social enterprises in India, working in the agri space, working in the health space, they all needed this one person that could be an extension of themselves in the form of a chief of staff. So we're currently experimenting and running a pilot called the Founders Fellowship for Social Enterprises. Think of this as one of the verticals that IIC is working on. We currently have two partners. One is called Kheti in Telangana. They're building low-cost mechanisms of generating they're building low cost greenhouses across the country for smallholder farmers. We also have Karma Primary Healthcare. They're building services across the country in around 17 states around telemedicine. We're very excited to be piloting this for the coming year, and we'll be looking forward to accepting applications from folks who are interested in this new and evolving space. As Umesh mentioned, please feel free to ask us any questions specific to the verticals in the chat, and we'd be happy to answer. Do we have Tanvi or Anurag on call?
Yes, we have Anurag. Yeah.
Okay. Anurag, over to you.
Anurag?
Actually, let's go forward. I've recently just received a message from Tanvi. She'll be joining in a bit.
Oh,
So,
Rag is
yeah.
here. Okay. Okay, so folks, let's talk about now. After hearing of all the interesting verticals and the projects that are happening, let's take a moment to really understand who an IIC fellow is and what our expectations and what we hope IIC fellows
Hi,
over
hello,
the
hello.
years.
I was just about to, sorry, I was just about to able to sort of unmute. Let me know if I have to speak now. Sasha, thank you.
Sure, sure. Thanks. All right. So we'll move ahead, and then Anurag will get you in just before the next section. Yeah. All right. So typically, an IIC fellow is. Can we move on to the next slide, please? An IIC fellow is an experienced early career professional who's ready to take ownership in high stakes and complex environments. So if you enjoy solving messy real world problems and take ownership from diagnosis to delivery, this program is designed for you. What we really assess in our candidates and applicants is the structured thinking component, the ability to manage stakeholders, and comfort in navigating ambiguity. Who we look for across our application pool are folks who below the age of 30 should have an undergrad degree. And while work experience is a mandatory purpose, we also must have a valid work permit in India. I would like to take a minute to emphasize on a particular point here. And many of you in the chat I see have also asked us the same. You must be below the age of 30 as of the 1st of April 2026. However, we would be a bit more lenient this time, so there would be a flexibility of 3 to 4 months up and down. So feel free to go ahead and apply, because what really matters to us most is the quality of the application as well as the quality of the applicant. So I would, to all those asking questions about eligibility and the age restriction, this one is for you. So you would be able to apply. So please go up, feel free to apply, and that's there. Moving ahead. As our projects have evolved over the years, the nature of work across IIC has also become more specialized, right? We in Can we have them go to the next slide, please? Yes, let's talk a little bit about the application process and the timeline. So, applications for this cohort opened early this month, and we do have an ongoing rolling application. So, I would request all those who are considering applying to please apply at the earliest, as we the different stages are already on. The first step of our application is, of course, the application form, followed by a behavior interview round. Those shortlisted post the BI round will get an invite for a technical interview round, after which we will be conducting extensive background checks, as well as making stakeholders be meeting the different applicants in the pool, followed by offers and placements. In terms of the deadlines and the timelines, we will be looking at starting the cohort in the mid of April. So this is what the application process looks like. Let's move on to the next slide, and requesting everybody to put any questions that you might have on the chat. Um, as mentioned earlier, our projects having evolved over the years, the nature of our work across IIC has also evolved. So this year we are introducing defined application tracks aligned to our project needs and to your strengths. When you apply, you will be choosing a track. This does not lock you in a silo, but it helps us assess your strengths better. The generalist track. Choose this if you bring end-to-end problem solving across strategy, stakeholder management, and execution. If you're equally comfortable in a high-stake government review meeting and in a working session designing implementation frameworks, this track is for you. And with that, let me welcome our team members who will share a bit about their work on the ground so you can hear directly from them. Tagging Aditya and Anaka in that order.
Shashwata, I lost your voice. Um, yeah, just to tell about the experience
Yes.
at
Yeah.
for the journalist track. So, just to give a brief background about me. Hi, my name is Aditya, and I've been working with IIC for last 2.5 years. I'm an engineer as a education background, and I've been leading one of the projects in Chandigarh in digital health. And the project, I think I lost the voice.
No,
Hello.
Aditya, you're good to go. Please go ahead. We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Aditya, we can hear you. You can keep going.
Hello.
Aditya, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, you can keep going. We can hear you as well. Anaga, do you want to jump in quickly while Aditya figures out his
Yeah,
audio?
I can do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm Anagha. I have done my graduation in computer science and engineering. So before IIC, I'd worked across information security, impact evaluation, education, and talent acquisition. So pretty different worlds I got to experience there. For the first 6 months of my IIC fellowship, I got to work on the implementation side of the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission in Chandigarh with Aditya. The aim of ABDM, I think we've spoken about it a little bit. It's just to give every Indian like a digital health identity and also to give that seamless experience of accessing, sharing your digital health history. So as part of our engagement, we had to get the public hospitals and facilities ready for end-to-end digitization. Or at that time, it was around that time that I had joined the project, which meant working closely with the frontline workers, building staff capacity, tracking what was working on the ground, and suggesting data-driven improvements. But for the next 6 months, I get to be at the National Health Authority and work on new use cases for the health ecosystem. I thought I'll just briefly share what I think the generalist track would actually look like, or from my experience, what it was. So during my time in Chandigarh, I had to do regular field visits in Chandigarh, which reminded me of my Teach for India days, except now I was working with maybe doctors on tight schedules and not students. So I obviously had to rethink how I prepared and engaged throughout them. My information security background also helped me assess the digital systems that were part of ABDM. But working with the government systems taught me why process and compliance is as important as the technology itself. Also, my monitoring and evaluation experience just before joining IIC came in handy when we had to define the KPIs or basically just for the adoption, how to like track what was happening on ground. But I had to first understand what were the metrics that really matter to the stakeholders that we were working with. For example, the director of health services or the joint directors of ABDM. So in a way, I feel like everything that I had done before IIC had connected in ways I didn't expect throughout the fellowship. You probably would also bring your whole background to solve the material problems that we will have for you. And I feel like you would learn to see those patterns across the domains and adapt quickly. I hope I was able to share a little bit about my fellowship and also give you a sense of what it could look like for you in the track. Thank you so much. I'll hand it over to Aditya now. And all the best
Yeah.
for your applications. Yeah, over to you, Aditya.
Just to add on what Anaga said, um, journalist track is more about problem solving. It's more like a program manager role. So I've worked in Chandigarh as leading the team there, and then now I'm working at NHA, working in digital health. It's a unique experience for me overall over the last 2.5 years, given that you work with the uh, senior bureaucrats and the highest leaders who are creating impact at such a large scale. So that brings a lot of responsibility on you. But overall, in the journalist track, what I've seen is it's more about problem solving, being into strategy, and also doing a lot of operational work, which over the public policy life cycle, you cover all the parts, like from ideation to implementation to adoption, and then basically enhancing the systems which are there. So overall at IIC, being a fellow or being a lead, it's more about um, figuring out those gaps which the government cannot cover, because there are people who are there to do the same work, to implement things. But what I've seen is there are some things that they keep missing that we have to actually find out and then cover those gaps as well. Where that is where we actually add a lot of value.
Great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. So before we move forward, we actually have Anurag who's joining us from Meeti right now, and he'll be talking a little bit about the data and the tech and AI vertical. Anurag, over to you.
Thank you, Shashwat. Hello, everybody. Uh, I am Anurag. I was a mechanical engineer. I spent some time in the US, sort of working at the cross section of medicine and engineering. And then I came back to India and I was working with Path as leading their AI and health vertical. And currently I'm with IC deployed at Ministry of Electronics and IT, looking after the Emerging Technologies Division and the India AI Mission. Uh, to sort of give a macro picture of what we do here, we essentially look at creating the digital infrastructure layer which will enable India to become an AI leader. Uh, so just a second. I apologize. I'll not be able to turn on the video because I am at Bharat Mandapam. We have the summit starting tomorrow, and there's a lot of chaos. So just avoiding the video, if that's okay.
No worries.
Okay. And so having said that, through in the mission, we do a variety of work, starting from drafting our policy of how AI, what position India should take in AI, etc., and going down to the implementation level. For example, I've been leading the product called AI Coach, which is a Hugging Face equivalent for India, to gather all of the data sets that Indian public system has to provide and also empower it with compute so that we can democratize access to compute. We can help enable the ecosystem to come and find a platform where they have data sets, models, and toolkits and compute together to build solutions. I've been managing a team, two teams of almost a strength of 20 and 20 to be able to deliver that. And besides that, we also go to different ministries and different states and departments. We look at what problems can be solved in their sector, in their ministries, within the ministry or the domain of the ministry, and how we can formulate problem statements there, and then bring in, sort of partners from the ecosystem to come and solve that. So just again a brief overview of everything that we've been doing at METI. And currently, obviously, we are also sort of running the India AI Impact Summit, where the world is coming here, heads of states, governments, and all of the key leaders in the AI space. Thank you so much.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Anurag, for sharing that great overview. I would now like to call upon Sanjana, who's working in the Odisha team, to share a little bit more about the work in Odisha as well as the data track.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. So I'd like to welcome you all to this open house. I'm Sanjana, and to just sort of brief you about my background. Oh, also I work with the Department of Electronics and Technology IT in the government of Odisha. So they have an AI cell there. I'm a part of the AI cell to help execute the AI mission. So just briefly about my background, I have a bachelor's in physics and a master's in human disease genetics, which is a little bit of a jump, as you can see. But then even during my degree in human disease genetics, I worked largely on cancer data sets, which were these large genomic data sets. And there I understood the power of like big data, and I was very interested in working more with data and also cutting edge technology. So I transitioned into a startup where I got to hands-on work with AI and specifically in the climate and health sector. Having done that, and I noticed that much like Rishika, I wanted to experience something at scale, and nothing does better at scale than the government does. So IIC was a wonderful opportunity for that, and that's where I came when I came to IIC to work with the INIT department to execute the AI mission at scale. Uh, but having come here, I've also realized one of the biggest plus points is the range of skill sets you get to develop while working with the government. You're, even though I work on the data track, there's an entire life cycle to the data track. You have to go and come
So primarily our work is working with departments to evangelize their data sets and make them AI ready. Because only when you have local data do you create local impact with AI, right? And that's the whole point of AI, which is data is the foundational layer, and that's what IIC helps to build in Odisha. So we work with departments, and one of the best things that I keep learning is how to gauge how deep granular you need to go during a meeting. And so it's not just the technical skills that you in when you talk about data, like what rows and columns you want or what you plan to do with the data with the use case that you help them identify, but it's also how deep can you explain to your stakeholder and what interest do they have in sort of help and just sort of how you can help them understand this better. So it's not just doing all the technical bits, identifying the data set or identifying what needs to be done with this data to make it AI ready, but it's also how to talk to people. And this has been such an interesting journey. And I really hope some of you can join me when we are leading this project. Thank you. Over to you, Shashwat.
Great. Thank you so much, Sanjana. As mentioned, this track is for those who think in systems, numbers, and evidence. Do remember to choose this track while you apply. If you bring the ability to structure ambiguity into metrics, models, and insights that decision makers can actually act on. You are strongest when working with large, imperfect data sets and turning evidence into clarity that shapes decisions. Moving ahead, I'd like to introduce to you all the product track. The product track, as our government partners increasingly look for digital systems, platform thinking, and scalable tools, this track has become critical. Choose this track if you bring a builder's mindset, designing solutions that users need and will actually adopt. You are good at translating needs into tools, platforms, and processes for scale. I would like to invite Devika, who's our project lead, to share a little bit about her experience.
Thank you, Shashwat. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I think Ria Himanshu touched a little bit upon the product track overall and the project that IIC is doing with NHA at the central level and also some other related branches. I joined IIC in 2023 and I've been here for almost 3 years. And I started working on a very specific use case when I joined in as a fellow, which was scan and pay. So that's something that I saw through in terms of product discovery to the entire life cycle that Ria really spoke about, research, requirement gathering, figuring out how the product would be on the back end as well as on front end interfaces, then looking at design, development, launch, and then scale. So pretty much every part of the development life cycle, and then also beyond in terms of how can we get it adopted further, what could be the policy guideline around it, and everything that also relates to it. I took a specific example because I also just wanted to share that the degree and scale of impact that you can have at IIC is also massive and also lasting in terms of seeing something from literally the brick level or the foundation level to actually building it up and then rolling it out and seeing it be part of the larger digital health ecosystem. In terms of work, in addition to all I spoke about here, now that I'm also a project lead, I'm working on a slightly broader portfolio in terms of one core gateway within the ABDM technical stack, and also specific services, functionalities that we've sort of discovered in terms of, by also interacting with the private sector ecosystem, the public sector ecosystem, and figuring out where do the gaps really exist. So as IIC fellows, you would have a lot of agency and freedom in terms of problem identification, figuring out what is it that you actually need to get developed or made at a central level. And in addition, you're also going to do a lot of field visits like some fellows spoke about, and also see how the ultimate or end solution is adopted. I think my experience has been quite enriching overall. And I would say that if you're interested in the product track, you would have to wear a lot of hats. It may not be as straightforward as something that you may have done in a startup. I would say it's a lot more well-rounded and comprehensive because you're looking at end-to-end from start to discovery and tracking. And you're also sort of engaging with a lot of government sector stakeholders, private sector stakeholders, simultaneously maybe working on a lot of events that the organization also does. So it's a very well-rounded experience. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box and I'll be happy to address them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Devika, for that. We now have Sadhna who would give us a little more insights on this track.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Sadhna. I joined IIC as a fellow last year in May. So I think this has been my first year in the fellowship, and I graduated with a master's in development studies. So I come from a development background. I worked in policy research and then in innovative finance consulting before joining IIC. IIC for me was, I think, the final piece of the puzzle that Rishika had sort of referenced to earlier in terms of Samaj, Sarkar, and Bazaar. I think I had worked in civil society and markets before, and IIC gave me an opportunity to actually get inside the government and understand how large scale implementation of programs work. At IIC, I work with the National Health Authority on the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. I specifically work on the National Health Claims Exchange, which is one of the gateways. And I think to me, this role has sort of been an intersection of strategy. As well as product, because I think the gateway itself has been alive for 1 to 2 years now, but we are sort of working on building the functionalities, use cases, and refining the value proposition for the various stakeholders while also working on implementation and adoption. So I think I'm gonna keep it as high level as possible without going into the specifics of health insurance or health claims processing. But essentially, we have a data standards protocol that we believe can solve for several industry challenges and bring in transparency, efficiency, as well as analytics. And my role in from a strategy perspective is sort of selling this vision for the future to I think so many different stakeholders. So this involves iterative consultations, understanding their pain points, sort of positioning this product or technology as a solution that could actually solve for challenges that they're facing. Clarifying misconceptions a lot as well, and actually making people understand what this gateway is all about. I think all of this strategy, thinking, and problem solving actually requires me to understand what the product aspect of it actually is, right? Because you need to understand the technical specifications, the API specifications, the data standards, and all of it to actually be able to deliver it to people well. So, from that perspective, having that knowledge, we also build more use cases to ensure that it's reaching as many people as possible. So yeah, I think that's majorly what we do. And I think the fellowship has been incredibly enriching for me because, like Devika said, it's not just about doing these combination of different things, but also getting to be a part of really important private consultations or other events that the government is organizing, that NHA is organizing. I think I would just two things that I think is I would like to highlight as things that have been incredibly exciting for me. One is actually getting to be a part of the decision making rooms where you actually go behind doors and see how the thinking goes behind a lot of industry wide decisions that actually get made. The other one is having worked on this for I think 10, 11 months, we've noticed challenges that prevent people from adopting this technology. And NHA is organizing a hackathon for NHCX specifically, which sort of culminates this into the solutioning part of it. So just seeing how these two pieces come together and being a part of it hands-on has been incredibly exciting. Yeah, I think that's about it and would be happy to answer any other questions that come up.
Great, Sadhna. Thank you so much for summing up your experience as well as sharing more about the product track. With that, I would like to thank you all our speakers for the time and for sharing your journeys and giving everyone a glimpse of what IIC work looks like on the ground. I hope this helped demystify the IIC Fellowship for our participants and give clarity on the tracks and the expectations. We'll now be moving into the last segment, that is the Q&A segment. Please drop your questions in the chat and we'll take them in as and when the team reads them.
Shashwat, we can double click on the tracks once more. I think that's something that's coming in again and again. And just to reiterate, Shashwat has already mentioned that we are given the number of requests, we are showing some leniency around the age bar. So if you're 30 years old at this point in time, please do apply. That your application will definitely be considered. Shash, over to you for the tracks.
All right. Requesting to go to the previous slides, please. To the track slides. So let me start off by sharing a little bit about the data track, which is, I think, the one where a lot of questions are coming in. The data track is for those who think in systems, numbers, and evidence. Am I audible, Rishika? Kindly confirm. Okay.
Yes.
Choose this track if you bring the ability to build structure and ambiguity, and at the same time, if you're strongest when working with large data sets. Somebody asked in the chat if it's compulsory to have a bachelor's in tech or any of a similar degree. It's not compulsory. However, it is preferred to have some sort of understanding in working in data, tech or AI, as well as a few certifications or any other qualifications that make you eligible in terms of this experience. Moving on to the product side, as governments across the central and state ministries are looking at digital public infrastructure and building those. The product track focuses on applicants coming in and working on problems that one can design to scale and on scale. If there are any particular questions, would be happy to address them in the chat. So to request folks to please ask all your questions in the chat.
Shashwat, I can come in to just clarify the tracks a little bit more. So, folks, none of the three tracks are completely mutually exclusive in terms of the work that you're going to be doing, right? The generalist track, as Aditya was mentioning, is very focused on problem solving. It might have some flavor of data and product as well. But the major chunk is going to be non-product and data, right? If you had to think of data and product, think of very similar lines. The skills and understanding of data for the data track is non-negotiable, plus to building those relationships, stakeholder management, doing the end-to-end life cycle, as Sanjana was also mentioning, translating the data for decision making. Those are things that you'll have to definitely do. On product, as Devika was again mentioning, you do get to do end-to-end product work, which could also be showcasing the work in events, helping leaders, decide what track to pursue and what kind of product to build. But a product understanding in that case is also very, very non-negotiable. Some of the other questions are around co-location within for the project. So wherever our partners are located and wherever the project is located, we expect the fellows to move to the project location full time. That is something that is again not negotiable. There's also a question on what after the fellowship. So the idea is for the fellow to move on from the fellowship post the year of fellowship, but in some cases we do, have opportunities for upward mobility. Of course, they're very, very tied to the funding available for the project, the stakeholder interest in that project, and a lot of other variables. But we do emphasize that it is a 1 year fellowship, and you come in and do the role as best as possible, and then move on, transition to other things in the ecosystem. Also, one more thing to clarify is that we do not provide options to the fellows for projects. We do the project mapping in the background itself. IIC has mechanisms to do an assessment where we've been, using that across 10 years of placing folks. We also sometimes prefer folks that have not lived in the geography or not, know the sector as well. But again, the choice is not something that lies with the fellow. It's definitely a full-time experience, folks. Full-time experience, co-located at the project location. It's sometimes more hectic, way more hectic than a 9 to 5, given that you're working with governments and unlocking impact at scale. Um, in terms of experiences, we are only including full-time work experiences. We cannot add a couple of internships and make that into a full-time work experience. When we say full-time work experience, we do mean long-term engagements at an organization, not short-term consultant positions. Shashwat, do you want to come in if you're missing something?
No, I think we're good to go in terms of the answers and yeah.
Any questions specific to any of the folks that spoke on the call? We can bring them back in. So, Neeraj, the technical round is about an extensive case study plus other questions. Vani, to your question on does IIC provide placement support post-fellowship? We do not have a structured post-fellowship placement program. We do, of course, have a very diverse and a helpful alumni network that we could probably connect you to. But we do not take responsibility for the placement post-fellowship.
Rishika, someone would like to know more about the social innovation.
Yeah, correct. So on the social innovation piece, as I mentioned, it's something that's still shaping up. But what we've started with is a pilot with social enterprises that we've shortlisted through a rigorous process. The idea is for them to have a business model that's viable, also for them to be serving the base of the pyramid population. What we're currently doing is placing one or two fellows per the social enterprise. The fellow is going to be working very, very closely with the founder and working as their chief of staff. The system is a little and the structure is a little bit different from other IIC projects where we typically have more than one person per project. But for the social innovation piece, this is the one that we're going with. Swati, the track that you should select if you want to work in the social innovation vertical would preferably be the generalist track. Shashwat, do you want to just quickly go through the rounds once more? I think questions around that are
Yeah.
frequent.
Sure. So, as many of you might be already aware, the applications opened in the beginning of this month. The application involves, filling in the Google form, which has upload the resume option, upload an IP, which is an innovation proposal, as well as a few questions around your experiences thus far, as well as some video upload submissions. So that would comprise of your application to the IIC cohort 26-27. Post that, we would be, as mentioned earlier, we are having rolling applications. So I'd request you not to wait for the last day. The last day of applications are the 25th of February. And given last time we had a lot of folks reaching out for an extension, please do submit your application when you feel it's the right time, but before the deadline. That's crucial for us as applications are being evaluated on a daily basis. The next step post the application would be the behavior interview round. The BI consists of a conversation with our team members to understand a bit more about your application, about your experiences, as well as about your motivations for IIC. It also talks about we also cover a few hypothetical situations involving workplace as well as personal life, which is a combination of about 45 to 50 minutes, would be the BI or the behavior interview round. Those shortlisted post the behavior interview round go in and are invited for the technical case study round. As Rishika mentioned, it involves largely a case study type session where a case study is presented. We also discuss in that round some parts of the application, including the innovation proposal, that is the assignment that is submitted in the beginning. Post the technical case study round, we do have a screening as well as a reference check, which is a crucial component of the application selection process itself. Many of the shortlisted candidates are then interviewed with our stakeholders or our clients that we work with as a final check, post which offer letters are rolled out as per mutual convenience as well as noting on a case by case basis. The deadlines for the applications open on 4th of February. The applications close on 25th of February, and we hope that we at this point we see that rollouts of offer letters would be mid-April onwards. Any other questions, folks? Please feel free to put it on the chat. It was lovely speaking and interacting with so many of you. Can
Uh,
the referees be academic rather than professional? Yes, we are open to that. However, a minimum of one professional reference would be required. Given that you, I'm assuming, have work experience before your master's, Vani, it would be preferable to have a professional reference as a work experience as well. Bhavni, to your question, the IIC Fellowship happens every year. Yes, for the last 10 years now, 11.
Shashwat, we have a question on how does the timeline look like from day one of joining the fellowship till its completion? As to how many fellows we take per track, that is information that we'll only disclose once we've chosen all our fellows. I can address the timeline. So, Rohit and Abhishek, the timelines would be that we start off with a training program in person in Delhi, and post which you are supposed to go to your project locations. We do have an extensive onboarding process, and then you basically start deep diving into the projects. If it's a new project, there'll be some more project development work. But if it's an older project, there'll be a lot of knowledge transfer that you'll have to go through. We do have around 60 hours plus of training in person plus virtually that we provide to the fellows, along with mentorship as well as basically a regular sort of overview and guidance from your project leads, from your engagement managers. So, in all kinds of ways, we do provide day-to-day support on project execution plus upscaling for the project. I hope that answers your question. We have a question on can applicants change their tracks, I am assuming, if they seem one is more aligned than the other. We only accept one application per person. Having said that, we do, in case we see that there is more merit in transferring a person from one track to the other, we'll do it at the back end and we keep you in loop. But I would really urge everyone to make a strong assessment of their skills and interests and then choose a track. For a lot of folks who joined in later, this video is going to be made available online. I've also pasted the FAQ links, and please follow our LinkedIn pages. And Amika, if you could just paste the links to our LinkedIn pages as well as our Instagram, please, feel free to send us messages there. Also, putting in the email ID where you can write to us in case there are any questions left, because we're a little bit above the time that we had parked for this. But yeah, we'll try to close in the next 3 minutes. So if you have any specific questions, please go ahead and put it in the chat.
Just wanted to reiterate a question that's been coming up. The fellowship is not a even though it's a full-time opportunity, you would not be employed at the University of Chicago Trust. It is a fellowship. So fellows would be walking in as a voluntary apprentice, and post your fellowship, which marks the end of the voluntary apprentice, you would have an option of either considering master's degree, or if you're looking at working in the same sector, one is free to do that. And the location of work post the fellowship is also going to be as per what you would like it to be. However, when you are an IIC fellow working on an IIC project, it's mandatory for you to be working from the project location, as discussed earlier.
Hi, Piyush, I had already mentioned that the employment status is of 12 months and the employment engagement is just for 12 months. And in certain circumstances, there will be opportunities of upward mobility, but we only promise employment for the 12 months that the fellowship continues to be. Lucky, there is definitely a project submission, a fellowship report that we expect in terms of submission. And Janvi, to your point, there are definitely people who would need more time in terms of giving their notice period. That's why if you've seen the form, there is a question asking for the length of the notice period. So definitely those kind of changes are something those exceptions can be made in case of certain circumstances. Shashwat, do you want to address the experience letter question?
Absolutely. Thank you, Bhavni, for your question. At the end of the fellowship, you would be getting an experience letter working as a fellow with the University of Chicago Trust with the International Innovation Corps program. Lucky, to your question, there is a fellowship completion report that our fellows do sort of share before the end of the fellowship. That is one of the most crucial deliverables that our fellows have at IIC. Vani, to your question about relocation support, it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Applicants and candidates who do apply and get selected for a project that is not in their current residential, location, get a standard 12,700 rupees as relocation amount with the disbursement of the first month's stipend, irrespective of, and that's not on actual. So that's a standard flat rate of 12,700 rupees.
There's a question from Manasuya saying that she's applied previously. Is that going to affect your candidature? We do definitely go and check comments from the application made the last time, but we definitely encourage you to apply again. And there's also a question in the form asking when you applied to IIC last. So the stipend for the fellows is rupees 12,70,000 a year, which is again not flexible, and it is unified across all fellows across all projects. You can just divide the amount by 12, which comes up to how much, Shashwat?
1,05,855.
Correct. So that's the amount that we disbursed on a monthly basis. Folks, I see a lot of repetitive questions now. Again, as I mentioned, you have our LinkedIn page, you have our Instagram page, you also have our email ID with you, and you will have this recording made available to you very, very soon. I would encourage you to apply if there's a question, to say if I should apply or not. I would encourage you to apply. There are definitely non-negotiables in terms of the work experience, in terms of full-time work experience, some flexibility in terms of the age requirements. But we're already receiving a lot of applications, a lot of good quality applications. So as Shashwat mentioned, please do not park this for the last date. We're already assessing applications on a rolling basis. Yeah, and all diversity is welcome. Great. I think we're good to close, Shashwat. Thanks so much again, folks, for joining in on a Sunday. Hope you have a good rest of the weekend and a lot of gratitude to IIC folks who made the time as well to come in and speak about their experience.
Great. Thank you, everybody, and hope you have a lovely rest of the evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.